rock on.
All right.
Shall we start this thing?
We are so glad to be finally getting out another podcast. We apologize for the silence, but if you haven't noticed, things have been weird in the last couple months.
Oh, no, not that weird, right?
So hello, Uncommon Cast friends. We are glad to be sharing with you. We are up in the treehouse in open air, pretty distant from one another right now, but we needed to get some words out, and we've missed sharing with you guys, and honestly, we've missed sharing with each other. It feels like such a gift to be not super closely together this morning. So, in case there's any people out there who want to be critical. But it is good to be together.
To see faces of people that aren't in your family.
Yeah.
Yes.
To talk about things together in a group.
Words.
Simply.
Totally, and not over the computer. As great as that is, and as good as technology is, like, being with people is good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to talk this morning, just actually checking in with each other and with all of you listeners out there, wherever you are. How are we doing personally? How are we doing spiritually? And then talk a little bit about control and lack thereof and a fearful fall coming towards us. Mm-hmm. So, who wants to start off? How are you guys doing?
I'll start. I like that we're going to be talking about control today, because I think that, like, one of the big things for our family through this whole thing is, even to unhealthy levels, the way that we're trying to keep control is to keep a routine. And even to the point of, like, it, like, really upsetting our kids when they're, like, wanting to do something else. And we're like, no, we're going to keep the routine. But then, of course, like, there'll be the days where we're just kind of over this.
Yeah. And
then we just let the routine slip away. And then it feels like things are out of control again.
In a new way.
And it's like this just up and down rhythm for us of, like, all right, let's get our stuff together. Let's actually have, like, a rhythm in our day. Let's have a schedule. Let's do something. Let's have intentionality. And then the next day, oh my gosh, we're still in quarantine, and I'm tired. Mm-hmm. So that inconsistency has been hard, but with that, that's the bad. The good is that, like a lot of people, we're spending a lot of time together as a family and enjoying and cherishing those moments. The fact that Jen's working from home makes it a lot easier for me when, we can actually tag team the kids. She doesn't have to be on her computer all day, every day. So it's been pretty good. It's hard to get things done, though.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
I'm the sole one who doesn't have little kids at home, and I cannot imagine you guys having to be, stuck inside and having the same thing over and over again. Yeah. For me, it's just been like this, sort of want to ignore everything and go out and be normal, and then being, like, stopped in your tracks and, like, nope, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that, and then, like, sitting home and doing a puzzle for 4 days straight and nothing else.
Yeah.
And, like, okay, you got to actually, do something productive now. And so I think routine is the same, it's the same struggle there. Like, well, how do you create a routine that's not part of your normal routine? Where do you find normalcy in it?
That is so funny. You said, there a couple days ago, right? We got invited to listen to a lecture with John Acuff. And it was so funny. And basically, he started.
I love him.
He started by saying, "This is a weird time, and we all have this lack of schedule, lack of formation. We've had so much transition with work, working from home, remotely, things like that." He's like, I just encourage you guys that you should start your day by putting on some pants. just try one thing of normality and put pants on when you start to approach your work, your career, your hopes to get things done in the day, because putting on pants is a good start.
Wow.
And many of us can go pretty pantsless these days. By the way, we're all wearing pants this morning.
Don't worry.
I'm happy about
Do
that.
joggers count?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of
Yeah.
become my new wardrobe.
Right? I know. Or like,
Boxers count as pants, right?
you know, you literally go like, there's no sense of time, you know, like
Yes.
I'll get up,
And you're like,
maybe I'll eat dinner for breakfast. I don't, you know, like,
I
I'll
love-
shower sometime.
Sometime.
I love like in especially in the early days of quarantine when like literally you weren't leaving your house and you had breakfast, and after breakfast you were like, what's for lunch? Because that's basically the next big
there's-
decision
it's the
that
only
I need
schedule.
to think about
Yeah.
is like what I'm going to eat next.
Yeah.
I think our family eats all the time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We're
You're
eating a
so
lot.
right.
Yeah.
Like, the conversations about meals and what's next like runs our day is when you're more home and more aware of that is the big thing.
Yeah, that's my next big decision
Yeah.
that I need to do.
Actually, that's the one structural phenomena that hasn't changed much is we still have
Eating.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And you still
absolutely.
sleep at night. So we do have a little bit of structure still
Well,
left in our day.
my kids
Bare
are just
bones.
like, I want to eat a snack right now, and then lunch comes, and they're like, nope, don't want to eat that. That's where my kids are right now. They don't want to eat anything that we put in front of them except goldfish.
You know, the best way to solve that is hunger. Let them experience hunger.
Yeah, that's true. That's real. So I would say for us, wow, I don't even know. Like, I feel like this quarantine has had so many different phases, right? And at least I think we're in a season where, okay, Drew's back to work and he's working out of the house. I'm working as much as I can, and the kids don't have school. So there's kind of all structure is to the wind. But I would say some of the things that have been a struggle for us for sure have been even just trying to make a plan, trying to figure out what next is going to look like when you don't have all the information and when things are changing constantly. So then you do, like the 7 in me just wants to throw it all to the wind and be like, forget it. Like, we're just going to have no schedule. There are no rules anymore. There are no rules. My kids stay up very late now. And they still wake up very early, which makes for a very crabby household. And yeah, we just eat constantly, which, for those of you that don't know, right before quarantine started, I started a new medication for my PMDD that helped me gain about 20 pounds. That was a fun side effect, but I'll take the 20 pounds with like the normal brain function. That's been great. But then quarantine happened. So then I got quarantine gifted me like another 7. So I'm up like 30 pounds, you guys, which means like literally nothing besides my joggers fit me. And that's been like this other struggle for me where for so long I have not dealt with like body image issues that in my head I thought I was past that, but then all of a sudden it's been a struggle again, and that like the fact that it's a struggle is also a struggle, if that makes
Right.
sense, because I was like, I'm a grown-ass woman,
I should
like,
be okay.
why am I worried about this? This is not, I'm fine, I'm still gonna live my life. But the fact that it is even a thought in my head then makes it's like a double issue. Like it's like this cyclical, annoying thing that I'm working through. So I would say those are the 2 big issues, like just the nonstop food and alcohol consumption of quarantine and like the inability to even begin to think of what control or a schedule is going to look like. Like you can't even start to think of what normal might be,
Yeah.
you know? And in the beginning, that was causing me a lot of anxiety when I was like trying to, like, it seemed for a while we were going to like, quote, get back to normal. And I was like super anxious because I couldn't even figure out what that was. So I've just thrown all that to the wind, and there's no rules, and we're getting 2 puppies. So that's,
You're going for it, not just one.
that's
Get
why we're
2
living this
puppies.
wild, crazy life. That's all I
right.
know.
Good.
Here's what's so interesting. I think too, for so many people going through career change too.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been furloughed, maybe you're unemployed, maybe you're we have friends that are searching for jobs right now in this really tough time to be searching for jobs. And what we do every day truly informs our self-image, right? And so when we don't have the get stuff done production at the end of the day, and I define myself by what I do and the title that I have in career, that can really get you to another bad place of not only body image, but just the self-image. Who am I and what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I feel that probably systemically and globally with all this transition, people are in their day with no structure or a big change of structure. They're in families where now there's greater tension relationally because they're close together, and maybe the relationships that they did have in marriage or family, they thought were good, but put them all together in a house for a long time, and even those relationships are more shaky than they ever imagined. It sets people up to really ask that question, who am I?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And am I good? And I know here's a great tie-in. We get a lot of, for those that are Christians, for those that are faithful followers that even do church on Sundays, that rhythm has been thrown off. And you get a lot of not only self-image from that, realizing your identity as a child of God, that you are loved, and that fuels you up for the rest of the week. But you also get structure with typical Sunday church, and that's been thrown off for so many. So a lot of people, and it ties in with our self-image, we are going, God, where are you in this? And our spiritual rhythms have been thrown off, which throws the whole rest of our lives into a little bit of chaos because we're not getting perhaps a weekly or daily dose of, this is who you are as a child of God. This is what I made you to do, to love those you're with and love others. And when we have that as the basis of our day, it gives structure. But we are all in a funky, perhaps, lack of spiritual rhythm that makes even people feel distant from God, and that God got lost in the pandemic.
Well, and I think to kind of bridge that exact idea into what we're going to talk about today, one of the main things that have happened during this quarantine is that all of the ways that we are able to pretend that we have control in our lives have been stripped away. So all of those rhythms, all of the schedules that we used to be able to control, all of the habits that we used to be able to employ, and even some of those rituals that we would do that just kind of led us to the illusion that we get control in this life, have slowly been stripped away. And that absolutely can cause like an identity crisis in some way, because you are left saying, without all of this, without the job, without the working out, without the social interaction, without, name the list, right? Without being the A1 volunteer at whatever organization or whatever school, who am I? Like, I feel like I'm not contributing anything. I'm literally just trying to keep the ship afloat and my family alive from day to day. And that is a really uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah. But not to Jesus juke you or anything, but I think that's where the good news comes in.
That's right.
That's where the good news of like all that striving, all those things that define your identity, he's taking care of it.
That we equate our value to, right, that productivity or all of those things that we are doing. And yet Jesus says, my burden is light. My yoke is easy. Come with me. I'll take care of it. I'll bear the burden for you. And that your identity is my child. And so that's the hope that I've been holding on to in this time. And Jesus juke. To take that one step further, because this is what I was thinking when you were talking, Ryan. At our most nothing, at our most empty, at our most useless, God still looks at us and is like, man, I'm crazy about you. And when we can do all of the things that make us feel good and important and valuable, we can tend to think that we have something to offer God, we have something to offer this world, like us individually by ourselves. And yet when it's all stripped away, the only thing we can do is be like, I have nothing. I really have nothing left to offer. But God somehow still sees me as valuable. And that's almost like a really important place to get to at some point. Like it's kind of the starting place we don't get there until all of the stuff is stripped away.
It's a very raw spot, right?
Yes.
Like all of your structures, all of your walls that you've built up, everything that's there to protect you, but it's all, you know, sort of a fallacy in terms of that's not what we really need. You just have to break it down to a very raw, vulnerable place, which is, you know, been done against our will at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I feel that as much as, so we all know historically, we all know throughout our own lives, as you watch news and experience it in your own life, that crisis tends to make you far more faithful, or at least open to faith and open to reaching out for a God that can help you. And I feel like we all saw that as a earthly globe, you know, in March, and as pandemic hit and spread, I think we saw a huge probably uptick in the spirituality of humans. But as this has gone on, now we're months into this weirdness, and honestly, we are all fearful of what September now is going to bring with schools. If you have kids, we're trying to figure out work and schools at home, and how are they going to learn anything, because homeschool does not work well over at this Ross Casa, right? But like, there's so much fear, and God may be feeling far away in pandemic because of a lack of structure of plugging into gospel. And perhaps we need to reevaluate of adding some spiritual structure into our lives, so that the other lack of structure may feel more
Manageable.
That's a good, manageable. Do you guys remember years ago, Cody and Dawn and I and Jeannie McCoy and Jeff Shue?
Oh, Jeannie McCoy.
Miss
you, friend.
Right?
Miss you too, Jeff.
Do you guys remember we were sitting in an office room once a week going through Renovation of the Heart by Dallas Willard?
Yes.
And one of like the most iconic takeaways of that book, encourage you guys to read that book. If you haven't read any Dallas Willard, you may have to read a paragraph a couple times.
It's weighty.
Like a word at a time. For me, I'm like, what?
But do you remember when we were pressed into the challenge of reading the gospel to yourself daily?
Yes.
So just basically saying there is a God that loves you. There is a God that gave his very own life for you, that you would have life, because you are a valuable, precious child in God's hands. And he not only wants to whisper that into your heart, that you're valuable and precious, and you're loved, but he also wants to whisper in your heart, hey, let's go do something today. Like, let's adventure this life together. Let's get up, let's do something. And I know right now there's a hunger. If you're feeling separate from God, you're probably also feeling like, I'm not doing anything necessarily good or spiritual these days. I think this is why. So this is funny. A few weeks ago, not a few weeks, what, a month ago?
There is no time anymore.
Time is a construct.
Doesn't exist.
We started a men's James Bible study, right? Because restrictions had loosened a little bit, so we could gather in small numbers, or so we thought, you know, and wear masks, but sit far apart, and we could do it. So right here in our backyard, right down over there, we met a couple times, started to go through James. And all the guys were just so hungry to meet together. We were hungry for community. And here's a cool thing too, is we were all hungry for like some spirituality, some like reading the Bible together, some like connecting with God and one another together, because we'd all been lacking that. And then a cool thing happened. We heard that there was a need. Oh, by the way, can you guys hear that music in the background?
Yes.
So we have this classic rock neighbor. It's actually that house way over there. So listeners, like probably like quarter mile away, can see a house on a hill right over there. And that guy jams out. He's really playing that guitar right now. with a friend playing
Sounds good.
drums in their
Wow.
garage.
Does
I thought it was
sound
coming from
great.
your house.
That they fill the neighborhood with that sound. And honestly, I
I'm
celebrate.
not mad about
I
it.
celebrate them.
Me neither.
I celebrate them and their contribution.
Okay, so back to this. We are all hungering, perhaps, for not only connection with God and one another, but also to do something with God and one another. So a few days ago, we heard the need. We were out doing some food delivery for local families in need, and we heard that there is a super nice family, and one of the members of the family lives in a car, and they needed a sleeping bag. And so I texted that thread of guys, remember Cody? And within minutes, we not only had one sleeping bag, we had 3 sleeping bags and guys that were just ready to jump on doing something good with God in their day. It was a cool reflection of hearts that are ready to connect with God and do something good. And I think we all have that in us. And I think if we look and listen, God will awaken something in your day where you'll see a need that you can meet, and that may be the greatest spiritual connection with God in your day.
And I want to add, sorry, Cody, I cut you off, even though
okay.
our listeners don't know
Cody
that.
did his dance that he was excited to say something.
Okay, go,
Well, I was
Cody.
just gonna
Go.
say, and you might say the same thing. I was just gonna say that what that is that's showing how easy it is to just enter in and do something good. What do you have? What do you have at your fingertips now? I have a sleeping bag if somebody needs a sleeping bag. I have a listening ear if somebody wants to talk through their stress and anxiety of being in a pandemic. I can go to the grocery store and pick up a meal and just deliver some joy to somebody. Like, there's so much that we, even in this time, it's so easy to just look at what you have in front of you, and just bring some joy and love to people. So that's
Well, what I was going to say is, even because all of that is true and all of that is awesome. And there's another layer in which even staying at home with our families, even making it through the day, when we invite God into those moments, what can seem like nothing to us can be holy. Like if our daily routine is, dealing with the fam and getting the kids through the day and like creating moments of joy in our own spaces, that's holy and good, and that's God. That's walking alongside God as well.
Absolutely.
Sometimes
That's great.
sometimes it's easier for us to look to external things to be like, I have done something.
Yeah.
Right? I gave a sleeping bag, which is amazing, and I'm not discounting that. But sometimes it's easier for us to look to those things and be able to check a box and say,
Right.
Totally.
I did something, than it is to just live our lives, inviting spirituality into those everyday moments and finding holiness there. Because I think that doing even that will grow, like it will make those everyday moments feel meaningful, feel important. It'll take something that was normal and make it extraordinary.
That reminds me of what we often say at our commune events. Like, do this thing that you're doing is a holy moment. Do it
Right.
in remembrance of me.
Yeah.
This meal that you're having, you're just eating bread and drinking wine. Do this, and it's holy. And then it also reminds me of the kind of reinterpretation of the Great Commission that we've talked about,
Yes.
of like, rather than go and make disciples as you are going
As
in
you
your
are
daily
doing
life.
your
Yeah.
life.
Exactly. And right
Yeah.
now, a lot of us are doing our life at home.
Right.
Yes.
And so as we are going, as we are at home,
As we were folding the
We-
laundry.
yeah,
as
we're-
we were doing the 8th load of dishes.
Or as
Why
we're
are there
not
so many
doing laundry.
dishes?
Because you're eating
Why
so
are there
much.
so many dishes? Yeah, and for real, you can wear the same pair of clothes several times when
Yeah.
nobody else sees you. It's fine.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Ryan literally didn't have pants the other day.
Yeah. I didn't go out publicly. I just, confessed to
didn't
my
have
friends
any.
that, hey, it's been a long time since I even remember doing laundry. And I guess, board shorts, jumping in the pool every day doesn't totally count as laundry.
No.
Or a shower.
Yeah. If you surf, you're showered. Salty, but showered.
that's great. I also, in this time, we would be remiss to not talk about all the division that we see happening and how much stress that has brought.
Yes.
And for me personally, like, you guys know, like, I'm a keep the peace, like, not avoid conflict, but like, let's have some harmony and let's enter conflict so that we can bring peace, because I love peace. But this division that I see it's been really hard for me. It's been really hard for me to not say some of the things that I want to say because I don't want to add to the division. But for people to be so vehemently divided over crazy things like masks, which I wear a mask, everybody, just want you to know. But or when we should start school, like, everybody's just, it's not even just like disagreements. It's not even different viewpoints anymore. It's like, you think kids should go to school, that means that you hate everyone and you want them to die.
You want teachers to die.
Yeah. And it's just, it's so crazy that everybody is getting so up in arms about everything. And when there's real things that we should be upset about, like racism and things like that. And yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go down too far down that rabbit hole, but it's been stressful for me.
Yeah.
Same.
And I realized, go Pam. Sorry.
I was just gonna say there's so much noise surrounding it, and I'm like you, and you want to like say something that feels positive, and it's shocking when you'll even get negativity back from that. Yeah. And so then I'm just sort of peace out, and I sort of tiptoe in once in a while, and I tiptoe back out, and but I think it boggles my mind that people will take the opportunity to, you know, get on their soapbox and pontificate and create chaos rather than come together. I don't, it is so crazy to me that we have taken something that's happening to the world collectively and found multiple ways to be more divided instead of more together. Yeah. It's such a sad, but even that, you know, you talk about the control, the lack of control that we have I feel like that's also something that makes you want to pull back and focus on your family, focus on your, you know, community, your extended family, your friendships, and like just slow the world down a little bit around you rather than like be a part of the big picture. You know,
I think it is a way to control arguing and debating and pushing your opinion out there. That is a way to control your life and try to control other people. So it really does, to me, come back down to control. Yeah. I
think we're all seeking for something to stand on. Yep. And when you can stand on something, you at least know where you're at and you're not going to fall over.
That's right.
And we all lack those times now. And yeah, it's interesting. When I realized I didn't get to share the story on the podcast, but just a few weeks ago, I went surfing down at the beach, and there's signs everywhere, you know, that wear your mask. And so I put on my mask to check out the waves, and when I went back to my car, I had this confrontation with a guy who parked really close behind me. And apparently, after he put down his stuff in the middle of the street and wanted to fight,
wow,
he then I didn't tell you, Pam. Oh my gosh! And the whole time I'm wearing my mask and getting my surfboard off the top of my Jeep, and like, it was so weird. And I was kind of laughing. The guy was so volatile. He was just blowing up on me, and then he just called me a liberal out of nowhere. I'm like, what? He was upset. Well, I asked him to move his car. He parked really close. And then he asked what the hell is wrong with you? And he went off. I won't even share it on the podcast because it would change our rating to share this guy's words.
Oh, no.
But and then he's in the middle of the street and he goes, "You liberal," and like, "This is the problem with you." And I'm like, where did he jump to liberal? Like, and apparently it's because I was wearing my mask, and that just really set him off. And I couldn't believe the volatility of our times, the explosiveness of someone in the street. It was just nuts. Other people were going, "Whoa," watching this thing happen. We did not fight. He walked the other way. I haven't been in a fight since 4th grade with Steve Dinigen, if you're listening, and I didn't know how to fight, so I wrestled him to the ground because that's what I learned at the YMCA.
Steve, the man in the street.
No, Steve, I didn't wrestle the man in the street.
I thought that moment needed a little clarity.
Oh yeah, you're right. No, there was no wrestling involved.
That's good. It's probably good.
Anyways.
Considering, social distancing and everything.
All of that being said, there was someone with extreme anger in a time of division, and he was taking a stand that I was the face of evil because I had a mask on, and it was interesting. So, I don't think he really feels that way. I actually think that he's got so much going on in life, and it's such a weird time that he had to blow up on something.
Yeah.
But he needed to stand on something.
And doesn't that come from his own fears and stress too,
I
right?
think so.
We're all like grabbing hold of something because of our own,
out of controlness.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that going to those places shows a lack of a foundation in the first place. If we get in these stressful situations and then we try to make our foundation be our opinions, then it becomes very clear very quickly that is not a strong foundation at all.
Right.
And rather we should be putting our foundation on something much, much stronger. And I think, isn't there like a Bible story about that?
And a children's song.
I'm looking at time. We gotta wrap this one up, and I think we could talk together and with y'all for hours because it's been so long. We got to get back into our schedule of this, and maybe that will give us some formation, right? But in our James study with the guys that are involved in that, if any of you want to jump in, just send us a message through this. We'll connect you with the James study that we're going through with guys. But there's a verse in the beginning of James that talks about trials, and that one, when you go through challenges and trials, you can allow good to come out of it by allowing God to work with your character through it, or you can just become bitter and broken because of these things. And I
fight
pray
people
that
on the street.
Fight people in the street. I pray that all of us would just go, God, this is challenging times. When you work with my character through this and bring some good in my character through this, and for humanity as a whole. And then he gets to a place, too, in the beginning of James where it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, which may feel like so many of us now, I need wisdom to approach fall with school and kids and work and life. And I need wisdom to get through my day, even doing laundry. Or I need wisdom to deal with people that are angry and division and racism and politics. There's a verse in there that says, if any of you lacks wisdom, ask God for it. And God, by the way, it's like this second part of the verse is, by the way, God doesn't look at you condescendingly. God looks at you as his child that he's longing to help and talk with and walk through life with. So I encourage our listeners to reconnect with God. Maybe set aside a daily time, or at least 5 minutes in a day that'll give you some structure if you're lacking it, to reconnect with a God who loves you and wants to walk through our unpredictable and uncontrollable times together.
And that makes me think we're doing a book study with some gals from Jen Hatmaker's new book, and she says this one thing that was really impactful to us, and she says, act motherly to yourself. Like, mother yourself. We often think of God solely as this father figure, but there's so much imagery in the Bible about God being our mother. And as a mom, when you look motheringly at your children, right? When they're having a hard time, you're not mad at them. You're not you don't want send them to their room to figure things out on their own. Occasionally that happens and they need to do that. But what your heart is longing for is how can I let me comfort you? Let me embrace you. Let me whisper to you all of the things that I think about you, to drown out those things that other voices say to you. And so maybe to go along with that James verse, when you're thinking about God not looking at you condescendingly, what if you imagine God looking at you like your mom? Now, hopefully you had a good mom, but if you're a mom, imagine God looking at you like you look at your children, and that might change your perspective on the way that God thinks about us, even at our lowest, most nothing, worstness of quarantine. And
friends, we would love to just even connect with you. We're all burnt out on Zoom. I'm sure all y'all are too, and sometimes big group gatherings, though they're great, and streaming things is fun, it's a good way to connect with people. But if any of you need just like a personal connection, shoot us a message, give us a call. We'd love to just talk with you, connect with you, and just be a maybe an encouragement to you in these just crazy ass days.
Yeah, and you can connect with us on social media. If you don't have our like personal numbers, if you do, you can totally text us or call us, like Ryan said. But you can find us on social media at Uncommon Good SD. We're most active on Instagram and Facebook, and so you can reach out to us there. And if you would like to join our email list, you can go to our website. There's a form on our website to join the email list, and we're putting out stuff like this, like what we're talking about today. So we'd love to connect with you in any way we can right now, give you some hope, some comfort, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Woo-hoo. We'll see y'all soon. We'll get back in the structural podcasting biz.
That's
Pam,
right.
thanks for joining us in the Treehouse.
Absolutely. Love it.
Peace out, everybody.